So I'm going to run through just a couple things really quickly here, some key characters to kind of keep in mind. Randy Glass is he was involved in a U.S. sting operation. He was a criminal himself, got involved in a sting operation with the FBI and the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. And in 1999, there was an ISI agent, and they were recording the conversation as part of their sting operation. And this ISI agent was within sight of the World Trade Center. He pointed to the World Trade Center, and he said, "Those towers are coming down." And he repeated that statement on several occasions. And this is, this evidence has been recorded on tape. So we can see, this is interesting because some people say that people didn't know that the towers would be completely destroyed. But here we are, even in 1999, stating with assurance that the towers are going to be completely destroyed. And I could go into a lot more about Randy Glass, but there's a big sordid history there of the ISI's involvement in even trying to buy nuclear weapons to give to Al-Qaeda. Now, another character to keep in mind is Saeed Sheikh. He's a very, very important character, and I think he's really the key to understanding a lot about 9/11. He's famous for being the killer of the reporter Daniel Pearl. You may remember in 2002 he got very brutally kidnapped and publicly executed, basically. And but it appears that Saeed Sheikh actually was one of the key funders for the 9/11 attacks. And so I'll read a quote from the London Times about him. It says, "Saeed Sheikh is no ordinary terrorist, but a man who has connections that reach high into Pakistan's military and intelligence elite and into the innermost circles of Osama bin Laden and the Al-Qaeda organization." He, in fact, was so tied in that bin Laden called him his favorite son, and he was even talking of replacing bin Laden someday. And yet, he was also an ISI agent. So I can't go into all the details, but there's a lot of evidence showing that he actually trained some of the hijackers in terrorism techniques, and he directly funded the attacks. Now, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the so-called 9/11 mastermind, he was also Saeed Sheikh's boss. They knew each other. For instance, they both participated in the Daniel Pearl killing. Now, Robert Fisk, who, as you may well know, is a very famous journalist, he said, like Saeed Sheikh, Mohammed was an ISI asset. Indeed, anyone handed over by the ISI these days is almost certainly a former employee of the ISI, whose control of the Taliban amazed even the Pakistani government. And then there's General Mahmoud Ahmed, and he's the head of the ISI. The Wall Street Journal and other media outlets reported in a month after 9/11 that General Mahmoud Ahmed, head of the ISI, ordered $100,000 to go from Saeed Sheikh to Mohammed Atta, the head hijacker. So we see a direct link from the head of the ISI to the head of the hijackers. And this remarkable evidence has really been ignored. And this last fact leads to all kinds of interesting connections to the U.S. because it so happens that General Ahmad, on the morning of 9/11, was actually meeting with Senator Bob Graham, Democratic Senator, Porter Goss, House Representatives guy who's now up for being the new head of the CIA, and John Kyle, another senator. And in the weeks before this, these same three U.S. politicians were in Pakistan talking to General Ahmad. We don't know what they were talking about. I certainly would like to know. So I'm running out of time, but another interesting figure that I think also points to very interesting directions is a guy called General Hamid Gul, who's a former head of the ISI. And a recent report from UPI suggested that he actually, this Hamid Gul, was actually the master planner for Osama bin Laden. And One reason this is very interesting is because Richard Clarke has stated, the counterterrorism czar for Bush and Clinton, stated that in 1999 they intercepted a message between Hamid Gul and some of the leaders of the Taliban where he said, that time Clinton tried to hit you with a missile late 98, don't worry, Clinton is not planning on doing it again, and even if he does, I'll warn you again like I gave you advance warning on the last time. So this to me suggests that there is some sort of collaboration between people within the U.S. government and people in the ISI, and this General Hamid Gul is being fingered as one of the masterminds of the 9/11 plot. The 9/11 Commission has covered up this information. There was actually an article in the LA Times that said that some people on the Commission said that the Pakistanis were, quote, up to their eyeballs, unquote, in involvement with the Taliban and al-Qaeda, and that the Commission findings that were actually released were, quote, only the tip of the iceberg, unquote, on these connections. Now, Daniel, I'll say just one more thing. Daniel Ellsberg, of the famous Pentagon Papers whistleblower, he said that, quote, it seems to me quite plausible that Pakistan was quite involved in 9/11. To say Pakistan, to me, is to say the CIA, because it's hard to say that the ISI would know something that the CIA had no knowledge of. So I hope that we can figure out these connections and bring these people to justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, for those of you in the audience